Welcome to Diary of a Dreamer, where resilience unlocks your potential. I'm Tasha Eisinger, and each week I'll bring you powerful stories and practical insights from my own experiences and inspiring guests. Whether you're facing challenges or chasing dreams, this podcast is your go-to for motivation, building confidence, and practical tips for transforming obstacles into opportunities. Be sure to check out my website, tashaeisinger.com. Let's dive into today's episode and start turning your dreams into reality. So hopefully you were able to listen to the first episode in this series where my really dear friend, Kelly Bell, is actually interviewing me because there's some parts of my life story that she felt like was important for people to hear and to learn from. And I thought, well, here we go. If I'm going to have anybody guide this conversation that I trust with such sensitive information, it's Kelly. Neither one of us are licensed in psychology or therapy degrees, any of that. Our degrees are in education. So, we're here to teach, not to treat, prevent, prescribe, diagnose, any of that. We're here having a conversation about things that are hopefully pretty relatable to people. So Kelly, thank you for being part of this conversation.
My pleasure. I really enjoyed our first chat and hearing about your childhood, hearing about your relationship with your parents, hearing about some of the tough things that you went through and also how your family rallied around you. I think it's really a cool story to hear. But the good and the bad, they have lasting impacts on our lives. And so we got through the end of your high school run, talked a little bit about your work-life balance, if you will. It seems like that's always been a little bit of a struggle for you. I get that. I relate to that immensely.
Like looking in a mirror.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Which, by the way, Kelly, there was a couple things that I thought about since our conversation. Of course, yeah. I was ruminating a little bit. I didn't spiral, but it ruminated a little.
Sure.
First of all, I know you didn't grow up as an athlete, and I know I'm not interviewing you, but people need to know that you have joined an elite set of athletes as an adult by completing the Chicago Marathon. So that's a whole nother conversation, obviously, that we could have, but that shows your discipline and work ethic and drive, and it needs to be acknowledged.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Honestly, another aspect of you that I can relate to is that I subscribe to the philosophy that was something I could never do. And then I was like, wait a second, I don't believe in I can't do anything. I'm going to double down. I'm going to conquer it and show the world that even though I have 2 left feet and 0 physical acumen, with sheer will and perseverance, I can run 26.2 miles.
Yeah. I need to interview you about that, actually.
Yeah.
Because that's such a great story.
Oh, yeah. It was an experience for sure. But you are right. This is not my story. This is your story. And I am excited to continue this conversation. So you got through high school, and you have a beautiful history of entrepreneurship in your family with farming and with like I would say the science behind it as well, with your family legacy. So what did you think? Okay, what do I want to be when I grow up, and how am I going to get there? What were those thoughts? Take me behind the curtain.
So one of the challenging things about being an achiever, which I always recommend people get Strength Finder 2.0, find out your top 5 strengths. I'm an achiever. And one of the challenges with that is we can adapt and figure a lot of different things out because it's fun and exciting. We love the challenge. And once we've learned it, it's like, okay, well, what else can I do? Right. And so in high school, I was like, do I want to be a physical therapist? Because I loved human phys and anatomy and our athletic training. So I was like, do I want to be a physical therapist? Do I want to be an attorney and represent children?
Mm.
Because I'm like, oh, I will win every case if I'm protecting kids. But then I thought, I don't think I will ever sleep because I won't sleep until every child I represent is protected. So that's not safe and good for me. So it was like, what do I want to do? And I always loved teaching. So sometimes in school, people would come to me and they're like, hey, can you help me figure this out? I was like, And I always played school with my younger brother. Like when he was a kid, well, both of us were kids. I'd be like, you can't play outside and have recess until you finish your homework, Troy. And he would have to sit there and do his homework when we were playing. I'm sure he didn't like that game very much.
But he played it. Props to Troy.
I know. And so, like, I would teach him how to read and like all of these things that I'm like, oh, I do like teaching and I love kids.
Yeah.
I've always loved children. And it seemed like a natural fit, but there were so many people who would tell me, like teachers and things like, this sounds like a humble brag, but this is what they would tell me. Like, you're too smart to be a teacher, which is absurd to say that. We need intelligent teachers. And no, I'm not too smart to be a teacher. Or teachers don't make enough money. Or you really should think of something else because of what you're good at and your talent. Like all these things, it was kind of confusing, right? Instead of being told, okay, teachers don't make very much money, maybe you should be a college professor. You could make more money. Or maybe you get into a different field of education, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was never put on the table, which is fine. So I was like, I guess I'll just go to school for elementary education. That makes sense. So and I went to Purdue because that's where my boyfriend went.
So many life choices when we were young were made by that.
Oh
influence.
my goodness. And it ended up being a good choice. It was the only school I applied to. I knew his SAT scores were way worse than mine. Like I was like, oh, I'll get in. No problem. So I wasn't worried about getting in. And I come from a Purdue family. So I was like,
that didn't play into it maybe a little bit.
well, I actually considered IU for a while when I was wanting to do something more like medical because I thought about that. Right. So I was like, well, it's about picking the school that makes sense for my major. And then I was like, well, does Purdue have elementary education? I'm like, they sure do. All right. That's where I'm going.
And you went to school, you and your boyfriend had a wonderful time and graduated with honors and rode off into the sunset.
Oh, just like a Disney movie.
Okay, so what really happened?
Oh my. So college here again was very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
The boyfriend that I had on and off through high school and for my freshman year of college was horrible. Like
Yeah.
truly horrible. It was very love bomby at the beginning, really just like so romantic and love bomby as high schoolers,
Yeah.
And then it changed as it does in those really toxic relationships. And I don't use the word toxic lightly. I think it gets overused a lot. Like it
Yeah.
really was, he was poison to me. And I kept putting up with it. And even my college roommate, who
Mm-hmm.
she was like, did you just see what he did to you? I'm so mad at him. He like shoved you out of the way so he could see the TV better. Like he literally pushed you. And I was like, well, he was just excited and blah, blah, blah. Like I always had excuses, was
Yeah.
always defensive of him. He was not physically abusive. Like that was the worst it got physically. It was all the emotional
Yeah.
stuff. And it got to the point that like finally it was an outsider who pointed it out to me that snapped me out of it and said that because he would cheat on me a lot too. Like, even though we weren't technically together, we were together, and he'd like cheat on me and he'd say these hurtful things. And you get to the point that that's really what you think you deserve too.
Mhm.
Like, because it's a slow breaking down of a
Mhm.
person's spirit. And I have a strong spirit. So to break it down in like
Yeah.
time. And it was his manager at the restaurant that was like, "Is that your girlfriend?" And then he said something. I don't know what he said. And the manager's like, "She seems like a really nice girl." And it just like snapped me out of it. And I was like, "Wait a minute, what's been going on? Have you been bringing other girls?"
Mm.
Of course,
Yeah.
stringing me along, not telling me. I always would find out when he was being unfaithful and things. But that was the moment where I'm like, a total stranger can see this. Even
Yeah.
though, like, one of my best friends, a couple of my close friends were like, "What's going on here? We don't really like him." It didn't matter, but it was that person that gave me the strength to say, "Hey, I'm done. I'm so done." And it was a really empowering moment. Like, I felt this huge weight lifted off of my shoulders, and so much of that depression and anxiety that I was feeling through high school and up to that point lifted.
Oh, interesting. There was so much associated with that relationship, that baggage that you had been
Yeah.
accumulating since you were 4.
Yeah.
And then just in that moment, you just decided to advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Like, I'm done.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so this ring right here, actually,
Yeah.
I told my mom, I was like, "You know what? He gave me a promise ring that was garbage, right? The promise was not real."
Yeah.
I mean, so romantic. He gave it to me on the Eiffel Tower in high school. Like, he was over the top, right? But I
Wow.
said, "That promise ring is garbage. I'm going to give myself a promise ring
Mm.
to stand up for myself." And I love, all these years later, I still wear it a lot. And my mom said, "Actually, I think I have a ring for you." And so she gave me this ring.
Oh,
So it's that reminder of like, don't ever let somebody make you feel like garbage.
yeah.
Nobody has that right to ever.
Honestly, including yourself, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Because I feel like a lot of the time we're the harshest on ourselves, right?
Hmm.
And we beat ourselves up too. We're part of that breaking down of ourselves sometimes, making ourselves vulnerable in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of times I'll ask myself, like, if my friend came to me,
Yeah.
what would I tell my friend? And then it's like, then go tell myself that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good strategy, you know,
It's helpful.
reframing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got through first year of college. What you said, it was what, a year and a half in that you ended up finally severing that relationship?
So it was at the end of freshman year. So I went
Okay,
into
so
like
1 year. Okay,
summer and single, just
nice.
peaceful, happy. I
Hmm.
hadn't been happy in so long
Yeah,
because of so much of that depression and anxiety that I had in high school. You know, like, I know that I had mentioned I was up till midnight doing homework. It wasn't always up till midnight doing homework. Sometimes it was up till midnight from anxiety. I couldn't sleep,
mm,
right? And so it was like so freeing to be rid of that. I was like, nothing's going to stop me now. Like,
right.
I feel so good
Yeah,
for a little while. It didn't
right,
last very
right.
long.
And I'm glad you had that oasis, that island of reprieve, which it's amazing how life kind of does that for us, because you had something huge coming your way and you had no clue.
Yeah.
What what was that? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, before that, I had like a really kind boyfriend. So I was like, I'm done with the guys
Oh,
treating me bad, right? And so then this boyfriend I had for many months, such a sweet guy, really a good person. And we had dated for about probably 6 months. And my dad even knew like how much we loved each other. And it was so cute. Like, there was one time my dad looked at me, he's like, you're in love. Teared up. It was like the sweetest thing.
Oh,
It was so sweet. And we grew up knowing each other. So we knew each other's families and all of that. And then actually April 17th is when my dad was killed in a car accident. And my parents had just celebrated their 31st wedding anniversary. We had had Easter shortly before that. So we had all been together as a family. And I'm talking even my dad's identical twin was there, which wasn't typical. My grandma was there, of course, which is his mom. And, it definitely stole the joy very quickly that I had
sure.
experienced, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you found out that your dad was gone, what was your reaction?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things when somebody dies slowly, it's hard to watch them die slowly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I don't want to downplay or dismiss people that have gone through that type of experience because that
Mhm.
is really hard. I watched my grandma slowly wither away, and there comes a point where you're like, please God, just take my grandma so
Yeah,
she can stop her suffering, right? But my dad, when it was like a beautiful sunny day, like it was the ultimate college kid day. So I stayed in a kind of a nice apartment. I did pay for it. I pay for my education. It was expensive, but stayed in a nice apartment that had a pool.
nice.
So my boyfriend, his roommate, and I, we went to the pool. It was like a beautiful sunny day. My classmates and I were wrapping up the hardest semester we had at Purdue, which was our sophomore year. It was so hard, and we were wrapping up one of our projects together. We were going to come to my place. I always have loved cooking, so I was like, come over and I'll feed everybody. And they're like, yeah, you're going to feed us like real food. And so I was like, yeah, I'll have like a good spread. We'll grill out, and I was so excited. Like, it was a perfect college day. And my mom called and was like, I have something I need to tell you. Well, actually, I backtrack. I was like, hey, mom, like, you're never going to believe this day, and blah, blah, blah. Just like typical college kid talking about myself,
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
And she was like, I have something I need to tell you. And it was like, oh, like the tone in her voice obviously was a clue. And she said, your dad was in a car accident. My very first thought was, where's the hospital? I'm going immediately. Right. My
Right.
dad is tough. He's strong. Like, he can get through this, but I know it's really bad. So I need to get to the hospital right now. And then she said he died. And there was a scream that erupted from my body. I have never heard a sound like that before in my life. It was like my soul was just ripped out of me. And denial is very strong because one of the things I said to my mom is, are you kidding me? Like, that's the dumbest thing. She's
Yeah. Yeah, that's not that wasn't really you talking to her. That was your
no,
brain saying this can't be real. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's the hard thing about a tragedy like that is it's so much your brain and your heart, like it cannot process it. Like death is always hard.
Yeah.
It really, it's because we love the person and we want to
Yeah.
be with the person.
Yeah.
But like when my grandma died, who I love dearly, I was sad and we wept, like truly wept at her funeral, even though she lived a very long life. It was like I felt a sense of peace for her.
Yeah.
My dad had a zest for life. He loved living life. He had just become a grandfather for the first time
Mhm.
and was a little bit annoying as a grandfather because he like hogged the baby. He didn't share that baby with anybody.
Yeah.
But, he just had so many reasons that he wanted to live. And then people in your life where you're like, why do they get to keep living? Like,
Yeah.
this person's a monster and they get to be here and my dad doesn't.
Yeah.
So death can be cruel sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And to happen so suddenly and also in such a contrast, right? You were having such an amazing, miraculous time. You had finally, embraced this freedom and things were going well. And then all of a sudden this,
Yeah.
humongous bomb just gets dropped in your life. And I think that it's interesting because there are different pathways one can take after something like that. And I sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's, totally, it's just you're riding the wave, like you're just going along for the ride. So I don't want to dwell too much on the event itself, but rather talk about what did you do after that? Like, what was your process of getting through that storm?
Well, here again, like the tragedy is so big that it's like an out of body experience.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like an instant numbness to like protect yourself.
Sure.
And it's like it's just disorienting. And so my boyfriend was like obviously very supportive and said, I was like, I just don't know what to do. Like, what do you do? He's like, I was like, I just want to be with my family. He's like, I will drive you, which was good because I was not safe to drive
Yeah.
a couple hours in the car. And so I was like, okay, yes, that makes sense. We will do that. And so then I contacted, one of my classmates for the project and was like, by the way, we can't do this today. I have no idea how I'm going to be part of the project, which God love all of them. They put my name on it.
Oh.
And just were like, yep, we'll just put your name on it. I was like, thank God you guys are all smart because I know it's going to be an A too.
Oh.
Priorities. So, it was that of like,
Yeah.
some of those things, the world keeps moving even when yours stops.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of like, oh yeah, like it's almost finals week. So I was like, I'll deal with that in a minute. I just have to get home. So it's like literally the next step. So then I like crawled to my room to pack my bag. I was like, I don't even know what to pack. We rode home and we were all together as a family. People started coming. And because so many people knew my dad and knew my family, our phone was ringing off the hook. Another thing about like being an entrepreneur in regard to this in particular,
Mm-hmm.
like when you have a job, you let your boss know and you might have to use sick days or stuff like that, right? Which is hard. My mom had to go to the office because it was seed corn delivery time period.
Oh no.
So all of these farmers are expecting my dad to show up with their seed corn so that they can plant their crops.
Yeah.
And he was actually delivering seed corn when it happened. So my mom had to call all of the dealers to let them know what had happened. And a lot of them, they knew my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So like at his funeral, people came in from multiple states to pay their respects. Like, so she set a good example of like, this is what you have to do when you're a business owner. You can't just say like, sorry guys.
Well, yeah, sure.
Right. And so, we stayed together as a family and I was like, oh, wait a minute. I've got to go back to college and tell my professors because I have projects due and essays due and teaching assignment. Like I had to go teach in classrooms and I was actually consistently in a classroom that semester. So even though I was 20, I still had to handle it in a lot of ways like an adult.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know what to say. Like, what do you say to people? So I walked in on Monday morning to there was like a small group of us in this particular class. And it was like, you could hear a pin drop. Everybody just stared at me.
Because they all knew.
They all knew. And this was even before like Facebook was a thing.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. And my poor younger brother being 16, the entire school knew. So he was walking through the hallways dealing with this. And I want people to understand, like, when somebody is grieving, like, you bringing it up is not you hurting them because they're thinking about it 24/7, whether it's consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah.
So finally one classmate said, I've been thinking about you. And then that kind of broke the ice. And that's all it took. It's not, you don't need to say anything profound. Right. And
Hmm.
so then I had to tell different professors, all of them, what had happened. And they were gracious. They gave me extensions, which luckily that semester I had turned everything in early, which I had never done before. So they knew, like, I was a good student, thankfully.
Yeah.
One of my papers, though, I think I had told you about this. Like, one of my papers was before he died, and I've kept it because it's fascinating. Before he died, I had complete and coherent sentences. It was quality work. Then I finished the essay, and I'm like, these aren't even sentences. They don't even make sense. I don't even know what I'm talking about here. Like, what? And then my teacher graded the part that was actually good, because there was no way that was an A paper. It should have been an F, but
Wow.
graded the part that actually was coherent. So, and I had to take finals. I bombed. I mean, I was like, I don't even know what this question says right now. I'm just filling in answers. And then was home for the summer and almost didn't go back to college because I wanted to be there for my mom and my little brother.
Yeah.
I was like, what if they're not eating? Like, I need to make sure that they eat. And who's going to lock the door at night? I've been locking the door. Like, they need to stay safe in our safe neighborhood.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. But that nurture side of you kicked in, and the save the
Yeah.
world, the Superman cape went on. I think also too, it's that creating any form of comfort in a time that is just raw and just hurts.
Yeah. And you don't know
So
what to do. Like, it's
yeah.
the weirdest thing. Like, I remember the first time I laughed,
Mm.
and I was watching, I think it was Friends, and I was sitting there watching it, and I laughed, and I was like, what is that sound?
Mm.
I was like, that was me trying to laugh. That didn't sound like me.
Mm.
So it's like, you're so disconnected at the same time as feeling everything at the same time. It's really a bizarre experience,
Yeah.
and it's always hard when like your loved ones are also suffering.
Yeah. You can't stop that. You can't
No,
save them from that. Yeah.
no. And it's part of the process. Like, you have to feel the feelings. Now, also typical of a college kid, when I first went back to college, this was before my dad's funeral. My friend was like, hey, do you want to come over and have a party? I'm like, sure. And it was like a Wednesday night or something, like a weeknight. Come on, have some
Yeah.
dignity, woman. But if it was Friday, it would be fine. But a
Yeah.
Wednesday.
College time. It's the time to make all the good choices.
Exactly. And I was like, we were playing some kind of drinking game, and I drank. And this guy who had no clue who I was, he was like, hey, I think you should slow down a little bit, which was really kind and also embarrassing. And I looked at him, I said, my dad was just killed in a car accident like 3 days ago. And he's like, have
Help
as much as you
yourself.
want. I'm like, thank you. Let's proceed with the game. Like, it was so awful.
But you know what? I think that's part of it too, is doing whatever, you need to, just try and do it in such a way that you don't, cause irreparable damage, like go into
Yes.
a rage and like punch a wall or something. I don't know.
Right. Yes. I mean, I was just direct and clear. I wasn't mean to him.
Yeah, right,
Also
right.
not- I'm trying to make sure I don't paint myself in this picture perfect way that I've always handled everything with total
Grace.
grace and dignity.
Yes.
But that is one of my goals, is when I go through things, handle it with as much grace and dignity as possible.
I feel like those are life philosophies or personal goals that usually are born out of doing the opposite and being like, so next time.
Yes, we don't do that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So all right. So you got through. You got through that semester by the grace and mercy of those around you. It sounds like a lot of people just kind of helped you float through,
Yes.
that haze. And then summer you spent at home, which was probably really, really good.
Mhm.
What why did you decide to go back in the fall instead of staying home?
I thought about it a lot, especially as like August was approaching. Like it just
Mhm.
like it was just like a pit in my stomach of like, what do I do? Like
Mhm.
I could wait tables, where I wait in the summer. I'm sure that they would try to find me some hours in the winter, which is not great when you're kind of like a tourist town, if you will. Like, but well, my dad would be so disappointed in me
Mhm.
if I don't go back and get my diploma. And I do believe that he can see me, which here again, when people are like, oh, but they're with you, they're looking down on you, like that is one of the most bullshit things to tell somebody who's hurting,
Yeah.
unless they say it first,
Mhm.
right? Because that's not the same as being able to have an actual conversation or feel his hug. But I do believe that he was looking down on me and could see like the choices I was making. I thought, I do want to make him proud of me. And that means I want to up my game with my grades and like make sure I'm doing a good job and actually like studying and being involved in, like I was in a National Honor Society. I got involved and started doing like grant writing, and we could do philanthropic things because of the grants. And really, here again, was not a perfect college student. Still sometimes numbed my pain by partying.
Mhm.
Wasn't all the time, but when I did, it was a party. Yeah,
Yeah, you survived.
it was a college coping mechanism.
It's there, it's available. I get it. Yeah.
Well, and it numbed it,
Hmm.
right? And it's like when you're feeling that much pain, sometimes you're just like, I just want it to go away for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel a different kind of pain tomorrow, but that pain I can manage,
Yeah.
right? You can take some Tylenol or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but I did take it upon myself to make sure that I was making choices that would make him proud. And then I also started calling my mom, I think almost every day. And I've done that ever since. We've either talked, texted, or seen each other almost every single day
Wow.
for now over 20 years. And I just learned that you don't want to live your life thinking like, oh, this person could die, so I better say I love them, right? But I'm so grateful that my last conversations with my dad for a long time were like really positive and encouraging and uplifting and loving.
Hmm.
And because you just don't get it, you can't take it back if you don't do that. So I'm very mindful of relationships because of it.
I think it's really interesting. One of the skills that your dad gave you as a young kid, that I'm going to run into the wind philosophy.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's exactly what you did in this situation. You're like, okay, I'm going to run into the wind. I'm going to turn this into something that my dad would be proud of in such a profound way. And I think that is not an easy choice to make. It's not it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, really, I think the easy thing would have been for me to stay home, like short term. Long
Yeah.
term, it would have caused more pain, but short term, it would have been easier to stay home,
Yeah.
and I really will never judge somebody for their
Oh, yeah.
experience because everybody has to handle things differently and have
Yeah.
different backgrounds. But it was interesting. I think it was my junior year or maybe my first semester senior year. I finally met a couple other girls that had lost a dad. We were in the same little tiny class, and I
Wow.
did not know that. And I don't know how it came up, but one of the girls, she lost both of her parents in college separately, like a year apart.
Oh my gosh.
And she was like the sweetest, kindest person who I had no clue. And she said that she had to leave Purdue for a short time period to raise her high school sister until she went to college. And so she was older than us by like a few years. And she just handled it with like this amazing composure. And
Mm,
I'm sure she didn't always handle it perfectly, but what I saw was just this strength and composure and responsibility that I was like, I can't even fathom
mm,
going through what she did.
yeah.
And my mom almost was in that truck with my dad. So I could have lost both of them the same day. So then it was like I was always really grateful that at least I still had my mom, right? So even
Hmm.
in all of the pain, I was like, I'm grateful I have a dad who loved me,
Hmm.
and I'm grateful that I still have my mom, right? So
Hmm.
gratitude's always been really helpful, but it was like sealed into me, like be really grateful, you know?
Yeah.
And then there was another girl that she lost her dad, and she just seemed like an angry person in general. Like she had this edge. So I don't know her life story, but she said, yeah, because my dad died, like I couldn't get good grades. And
Mm,
like my teachers, this and that, and was like blaming everybody. And legitimately, these are legitimate excuses, but that's really what it was her reasoning for
hmm.
not excelling was because he died. And in my head, I didn't say anything because I was like, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm judging them or sound like I'm being superior. But in my head, I was like, because my dad died, my grades got better.
Mm.
It
Inter-
drove me more. And I feel like every experience that we have that's really hard, we can either allow it to give us a chip on our shoulder and make us bitter and angry at the world, or we can say, I'm going to be better, a better human being because of it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Wow. So you get to this place, where you've got two paths, the turn it into a superpower or, legitimately claim that chip and say, this is mine. Now it's a part of me. And I don't want to make it seem like, you chose the path of I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna turn this into my superpower or, choose a way to honor him and then say that there was and then there was no more pain and then everything was perfect because
No,
we all know that's not the case,
no. Yeah,
but
I miss him terribly. I
yeah.
really do, but one of the things I wish everybody could understand about life.
Mm,
So at, my dad's viewing, which I had mentioned in the last episode, I think,
mm-hmm,
all of these people coming through talked about these really beautiful things my dad did to help their family. Like, oh,
mm,
our house burned down and your dad was the first one to bring blankets and food. And I was like,
mm,
huh. I remember as a kid one time, like my dad was like, okay, somebody's house burned down. They got kids about your age, grab some toys. We're going to make a donation. Mom's getting canned goods. He's getting blankets. I'm like, I didn't think anything of it.
mm,
I didn't make a deal of it. My parents it was just the right thing to do. They needed help. And we had some things that we could give, right? And so I knew some of those things. I didn't know the extent at which he did all of this stuff. So it was like
mm,
person after person after person saying these things. And when my dad was alive, my mom would say, I just think people take him for granted, because he really was willing to help anybody and everybody.
yeah.
And she felt that, and she was probably right while he was alive. But all of those good things that he did for all these people after he died, they gave to our family.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about putting in the crops that year because like 40 farmers came with their equipment to put them in. When it came time to harvest, it was like another 40 farmers. And so many of them said, one time your dad did this for me and my family. So even though he was working around the clock for our family, he still found time for them, and they gave it back to us. So like when I do something kind for somebody and they're like, oh, thank you. I'm like, please just pay it forward. Like help somebody else.
Yeah.
And I really mean it to like the core of my being, like, because I experienced it in such a profound way at a young age.
Yeah. Reframed your view of the world and the role you play, or
Yeah.
reinforced some of those instincts that you already had.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after your dad passed, you talked about how all these people showed up and supported your family in a beautiful way. Um, I'd like to take a second and dive into your relationship with adults in your life outside of your core family, your mom and your dad, who
Yeah.
have invested in you and also um, helped shape the way that you function as an adult now, traits and things that you have taken on.
Yeah. So I think of my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, sometimes I would even go and hang out with my grandma in the summer. Like, it makes me so happy that I would do that regularly. At least once a week, I'd spend the afternoon with my grandma. And sometimes I'd take her grocery shopping. Sometimes we played cards and we'd gamble our quarter.
Yeah.
So it's the same quarter going back and forth. It's like, I can't take 25 cents from my grandma. I mean, to be fair, she was born in 1915. So she lived through the Great Depression. So I was like, it just feels wrong, you know? And she really taught me how to really hear what somebody's saying and truly listen. She was
Mm,
such a good listener and would ask more questions to understand. And she was always learning. So sometimes she would say, I learned something new from the news today. And I got out my encyclopedia and I used my globe to find it on the globe. And it was really hard to find. And she would tell me all this stuff that she was learning. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to learn the rest of my life. Good. That's good advice, right? And I'm going to be a good listener and truly care about what the person's telling me. That's good advice. And then one day I interviewed her.
mm,
I thought she's got a wealth of knowledge from all of her lived experiences. And one of the biggest things that she taught me was when you are in relationships with people, because I was like, so how do you deal with a mother-in-law? And how do you deal with, like some of these tougher relationships?
yeah.
She's like, listen to their point of view and try to understand. They may have something to teach you.
Mm.
And another one was to be patient with people, but she had 8 kids. So she had a lot of patience.
Her patience muscle was strong.
Yes. Yes. And so that's really like, and I think of, I mean, this is not a political podcast and it will
Mm,
never be, but I wish people could try to really hear the heart of another person. And I'm not saying generalities as a group. I'm saying like your loved ones,
mhm.
right? The people that you do trust, try to understand their heart and try to hear them and ask questions. And even if you disagree, that it's like, oh, I completely disagree, but I understand that they really are doing what they think is best and right.
Yeah.
So I love getting perspectives from so many different people, especially people I disagree with because of
That's
my grandma.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then
Um,
of course, coach, my high school
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. That's what you read my mind. That's where I was going next.
Yeah, my high school swim coach, he like what a gem of a guy. And I think it's so important for high schoolers too. And you probably agree with this, is like you got to have like your family and hopefully you do have a good family, but you
Mhm.
also need like adults outside of your family, whether it's coaches or
Yep.
teachers who can speak life into you.
Mm-hmm.
right? And coach was that person. And like, he would just, like, he would even notice sometimes at practice, like, I just needed to cry.
Mm.
I don't know how, like, I don't know what I was doing with my face that he could tell, but he would pull me out of practice, take me to his office, and say, "What's going on?" And I might tell him, I might not. And he would literally let me cry for a good like 10 minutes just to get it out. And I never felt judged. He was never like, "You're being ridiculous. Like, do you realize what you just said?"
Yeah.
Never once. He always listened, and he would give me maybe a fresh perspective in his way that he could do that
Yep.
nobody else could because he was my coach and not my parent. Right.
Yeah.
And then there was also one time that he said something. I think I was in 8th grade. And keep in mind, like, coach, what is he, like 6'3", you think, Kelly? He's a big guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Big
Yeah.
guy. And
Yeah.
like built like big dude.
Yes. Yes. So, if you didn't know how kind he was, he could be intimidating.
Very much so. Mm-hmm.
Right. And really, like, kids always have loved him. I'd watch him with any little kid. They were never intimidated or afraid of him because they could see his kindness,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And one time I don't know what coaching technique it was, but he said something. And here, like, at the time, I was like 5 feet tall. Okay. And I looked up at him and I said, "Don't say that." And he went, because I never talked to him like that. And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Why?" I said, "Because I don't like that and it's not helpful." And he said, "Okay." He never did it again.
Wow.
And I will say that for that little child in me to be able to speak up and be so respected by somebody that I respect, who's like this big guy. I mean, he could have said, "Don't you talk to your coach like that. I know what I'm doing. You're just a
Mm-hmm.
kid." He was just in shock because I never said anything like that. But he never did it again. And it was like, okay, I can use my voice to speak up when it matters, and it can still be respected and be respected by a man.
Mm.
That was really helpful.
What a beautiful gift that he gave you in that moment.
Yeah. Just by him being him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't realize, right,
Yeah.
what he was doing ultimately for me. And then he would always drill into us, your body can always do more than it thinks it can. Which I
Mm-hmm.
wrote a blog about that actually, because I was like, this is a good lesson. And it helped me with all my health issues in my 20s. I really think that's why I wasn't bedridden. I should have been probably as sick as I was, but I was still able to get up and keep going because I'm like, your body can do more than it thinks it can. Your body. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like on repeat in my head,
Yeah.
so he's kind of been like, all these people are like little voices in our head, if you will, right?
Yeah. Well,
So,
it's that idea of every person's like giving you tools, things that they probably learned the hard way, or somebody gifted them and then they're gifting them to you, and all of these tools um, come into play. I mean, I hope that's very evident as we're talking through your story, how pieces from your past, whether they were great things or hard things, played into how you managed yourself later on, and how
yeah.
they all build.
And I hope people also reflect on how they're speaking to other
Yeah,
people.
right. What tools are you giving? Hopefully you're giving tools, not taking them away.
Exactly. Yeah. Be somebody's positive self-talk. Be
Mm-hmm.
that seed that's planted in them that when life is really hard, they can pull that out and be like, "Oh, but that one time this one person said this one thing."
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And so I really am grateful for all these incredible people that I've had in my life.
truly. I feel like that's a really good place to kind of stop today on this high note. We went through another
Ooh.
heavy moment, but um, yeah, I think that corridor of your life deserves a little bit of a deep dive. I think there's a lot to pull out of that too. Hopefully it gives other people that are maybe going through a hard time some hope too.
Yeah.
Helps them think about ways that maybe they can reframe a situation and claim it as something that is empowering and not debilitating.
Yeah. And also just don't expect yourself to be perfect through it. Like the number of
Sure.
mistakes that I've made as I've dealt with life, it's like, ooh,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely. It's
It's
okay.
messy.
Yeah, it's okay to mess up and it's okay to hurt too, you know?
Yeah. You
It's
have to let yourself.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tasha, for talking about that experience. So I think next time, just to kind of give a little bit of spoiler alert into what we're gonna go into next. Uh, so Tasha does graduate college. We'll talk a little bit about the end of her college career and then what came after that. Um, which no straight lines in Tasha's life, which I mean, I hope we all can realize no straight lines in anybody's life, but more to come. Thank you again, Tasha.
Thank you, Kelly. I love you, friend.
Love you too.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Diary of a Dreamer. I hope you found the stories and tips shared today to be a source of motivation and strength. Remember, every challenge you face is a chance to grow and move closer to your dreams. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with anyone who could use a boost of encouragement. Please check out my website, tashaeisinger.com.